a report on the BBC where they were interviewing a West Indian gentleman, and I thought he had some really interesting points to make. He could hardly make them through the BBC reporter badgering him in ways that I found to be amazing. So let's get that started.
Marcus Dow, are you shocked by what you've seen there last night?
No, not at all. I have been living in London for 50 years. There are so many different moods and moments. But what I was certain about, listening to my grandson and my son, is that something very, very serious was going to take place in this country. Our political leaders had no idea. The police had no idea. But if you looked at young blacks and young whites with a discerning eye and a careful hearing, they have been telling us, and we would not listen, that what is happening in this country to them.
Mr. Howe, if I can just stop you, Mr. Howe, for a moment.
All right, now she's about to get into some interesting questions. Now, that's Darcus Howe. He is a writer and a broadcaster of West Indian descent. And so he's saying, look, if you actually looked at the streets and you talked to the real people who lived here, this would not have come as a surprise to you because of this building frustration. Now, her line of questioning gets bizarre. Let's watch.
You say you're not shocked. Does this mean that you condone what happened in your community last night?
I condone, of course not. What I'm going to condone it for, what I'm concerned about more than anything else, there is a young man called Mark Duggan. He has parents, he has brothers, he has sisters, and few yards away from where he lives, a police officer blew his head off.
Well, Mr. Howe, we have to.
Let me finish.
Mr. Howe, we have to wait for the official inquiry before we can say things like that. We don't know what happened to Mr. Duggan. We are going to wait for the police report on it.
Right, but he's explaining the frustration of the people in the street who believed that Duggan's head was blown off. She's like, whoa, 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 take it easy there. We'll wait for the official inquiry. Okay, that part, you know, you can say, hey, look, she's doing her job, making sure you got both sides of the story. But that first question, you're not shocked by it. Or does that mean you're condoning it? No, he's just telling you what led up to it. Why would that mean that he's condoning it? And he was as flummoxed as I was by that. He's like, why would I be condoning it? Look at the, you know, almost saying, look behind me. I mean, look at all the damage that was done. Of course he's not condoning it. You have him on for an interview trying to explain why it happened. Will you let the man explain? Look, here's another great example that he brought up in the interview.
They have been stopping and searching young blacks for no reason at all. I have a grandson, he's an angel, and he began to think he was coming of age when the police slapped him up against the wall and searched him, and he thought he had now had a gold star. I asked him the other day, apropos of a sense that something was going seriously wrong in this country. I said, how many times have the police searched you? He said, Papa, I can't count. There's so many times.
Look, what he's trying to explain is that deep-seated, we can't take it anymore. Like, we haven't done anything wrong. This kid is, you know, a part of a good family. His father is, I mean, his grandfather obviously is a journalist, and he's trying to get to school, get back from school, constant searches. And you begin to think, why are they picking on us? So when something explodes, it doesn't mean that it's right that it explodes. If you're looking into the reason why, these are pretty compelling reasons why you might want to pay attention to that and to address it. But that's not the direction this reporter is going to go. Look at this last exchange.
If that is not an excuse to go out rioting and cause the sort of damage that we have been seeing over the last few days.
Where were you in 1981 in Brixton?
Mr.
They had I don't call it rioting, I call it an insurrection of the masses of the people.
Mr. Howe, if I can just ask you, you are not a stranger to riots yourself, I understand, are you? You have taken part in them yourself.
I have never taken part in a single riot. I've been on demonstrations that ended up in a conflict. And have some respect for an old West Indian Negro and stop accusing me of being a rioter. Because you won't tickle me to get abusive. You just sound idiotic. Have some respect.
Darcus Howe,
grandchildren.
Thank you very much for joining us from Croydon. Darcus Howe, their writer and broadcaster.
All right, listen. So he says, I've been part of demonstrations, which is, of course, you're right, in the UK, here in the US, of course, and it's all in the framing. She frames it as, well, if you're part of a demonstration, well, then you must have been part of riots. She says, I understand you've been part of riots. No, do you know what a riot is? Riot is when you go and a guy like him, you think, is going out there grabbing people, beating them up, looting stores, burning things. No, he's saying, look, I am concerned about what is happening. I'm trying to relay that concern to you. And then you turn around and tell me, oh, I hear you're a well-known rioter. He's like, well, I didn't say, where did you get that from? And look, he used the word insurrection, which was interesting, right? And now that's the kind of words that people do not like. They say, well, that must mean that he's condoning X, Y, or Z. No, what he's telling you is people have had enough. And this is an unfortunate way that that has been shown. He says over and over, he wishes it hadn't happened. But can we address the underlying problems?